A Bush Publican's Lament by Lawson. I wish I was spifflicated before I ever seen a pub. You see, it's this way. Suppose a cove comes along on a blazing hot day in the drought, and you ought to know how hell hot it can be out here, and he dumps his swag in the corner of the bar, and he turns around and he says to me, "Look here, boss, I ain't got a lonely stever on me, and God knows when I'll get one. I've tramped 10 miles this morning, and I'll have to tramp another 10 afore tonight. I'm expecting to get on shearing with Baldy Thompson at Wester Sunday next week. I got a thirst on me like a sun-struck bone, and for God's sake, put a couple of beers for me and me mate, and I'll fix up with you when I come back after shearing." And what's a fella to do? I've been there myself, and I'll put it to you, I've known what it is to have a thirst on me. And suppose a poor devil comes along in the gym jams, with every inch of him jumping, and a look in his eyes like a man being murdered and sent to hell, and a whine in his voice like a whipped cur, and the snakes are chasing out of him. And he hooks me with his finger to the far end of the bar, as if he was going to tell me that the world was ended. And he hangs over the bar and chews me lug, and tries to speak, and breaks off into a sort of low shriek like a terrified woman, and he says, "For Mother of Christ's sake, give me a drink. What am I to do?" I've been there myself. I know what the horrors is. He might have blued his cheque at the last shanty. But what am I to do? I put it to you. If I let him go, he might hang himself to the next leaning tree. What's a drink, you might ask? I don't mind a drink or two, but when it comes to half a dozen in a day, it mounts up, I can tell you. Drinks is sixpence here. I have to pay for it, and pay carriage on it, and it's all up to me in the end. I used sometimes to think it was lucky I wasn't west of the sixpenny line, where I'd lose a shilling on every drink I gave away. And supposing a sundowner comes along, smoking tea leaves, and says to me, "Look here, boss, me and me mate ain't had a smoke for 3 days." What's a man to do? I put it to you. I'm a heavy smoker myself, and I've known what it is to be without a smoke on the track. But nail rod is 9pence a stick out here, and I have to pay carriage. It all mounts up, I can tell you. And suppose an old King Billy and his old black gin comes around at holiday time and squats on the veranda, and blarneys and wheedles and whines and argues like 100 Jews and old Irish women put together, and accuses me of taking this blasted country from him, and makes me and the missus laugh, and we give him a bottle of rum and a bag of grub to get rid of him and his rotten old scarecrow tribe. It all tells up. I was all as soft on the blacks. And besides, an old gin nursed me and me mother when I was born, and saved me blessed life. Not that that mounts to much, but it all tells up. And I got me licence to pay. And some bloody skunk goes and informs on me for supplying the aboriginals with intoxicating liquor, and I have to pay a fine and risk me licence. But what's a man to do? And 3 or 4 heron-gutted jackaroos come in about dinner time when the table's set and the cooking's smelling from the kitchen, with their belts done up 3 holes and not the price of a feed on 'em. What's a man to do? I've known what it is to perish on the track myself. It's not the tucker I think on. I don't care a damn for that. When the shearers come, everyone is free to go into the kitchen and forage for himself when he feels hungry, so long as he pays for his drink. But the jackaroos can't pay for drinks, and I have to pay carriage on the flour and tea and sugar and groceries. and it all ends up by the end of the year. And a straight chap that knows me gets a job to take a flock of sheep or a mob of cattle to Bloomin' Gulf or South Australia or somewheres, and loses one of his horses going out to take charge and borrows £8 from me to buy another one. He'll turn up again in a year or two and most likely want to make me take £20 for that 8 and make everybody about the place blind drunk. But I've got to wait. And the wine and spirit merchant and the brewery won't. They know I can't do without liquor in this place. And Lars Rains, Jimmy Nolet, the bullock driver, gets bogged over his axle trees back there on the black soil plains between two flooded billabongs, and prays till the country's steam and his soul's busted and his throat's like a lime kiln. He taps a keg of rum or beer to keep his throat in working order. I don't mind that at all, but him and his mates get flood-bound for near a week and broach more kegs and go on a howling spree in their mud and spill more than they swipe and leave a tarpaulin off a load and the flour gets wet and the sugar runs out of the bags like syrup. Now what's a fella to do? Do you expect me to set the law out of Jimmy? I've known him all my life, and he knowed me father afore I was born. He's been on the road this 40 year, and he's as thin as a rat and as poor as a mile black. And he's got a family to keep back there in Burke. No, I have to pay for it in the end, and it all mounts up, I can tell you. And suppose some poor devil of a new chum black sheep comes along, staggering from one side of the track to the other, and spouting poetry, dying of heat or fever or heartbreak and homesickness, or a life of dissipation he'd led in England, and without a sprat on him, ain't no claim on the bush, and I catches him in me arms and he stumbles into the bar, and he wants me to hold him while he turns English into Greek for me. And I put him to bed, and he gets worse, and I have to send a buggy 20 miles for a doctor and pay him, and the jackaroo gets worse and has to be watched and nursed and held down sometimes, and he raves about his home and mother in England and the blasted university that he was educated at, and a woman and something that sounds like poetry in French, and he upsets me missus a lot and makes her blubber, and he dies, and I have to pay a man to bury him and knock up a sort of fence around the grave afterwards to keep the stock out, and send a buggy again for a parson, and, well, what's a man to do? I couldn't let him wander away and die like a dog in the scrub, and be shoved underground like a dog too. If his body was ever found, the government might pay to bury him, but there ain't never been a pauper funeral from my house yet, and there won't be one if I can help it, except it be myself. And then there's the bother going through his papers to try and find out who he was, where his friends is, and I have to get the missus to write a letter to his people, and we have to make up lies about how he died to make it easier for him. And going through his letters, the missus comes across a portrait, and a locket of hair, and a letter from his mother and sisters and girl, and they upset her. She blubbers again, and gets sentimental like she used to long ago when we was first married. There was one bit of poetry, I forget it now, that there jackaroo kept saying over and over again till it buzzed in me head, and weeks after I'd catch the missus muttering it to herself in the kitchen till I thought she was going ratty. And we gets a letter from the jackaroo's friend that puts us to a lot more bother. I hate having anything to do with letters. And someone's sure to say he was lambed down and cleaned out and poisoned with bad bush liquor at my place. It's almost enough to make a man wish there was a recording angel. And what's the end of it? I got the blazing bailiff in the place now. I can't shot him out because he's a decent hard-up poor devil from Burke, with consumption or something. And he's been talking to the missus about his missus and kids, and I see no chance of getting rid of him unless the shearers come along with their checks from Wester Sunday next week and act straight by me. Like as not, I'll have to roll up me swag and take the track myself in the end. They say publicans are damned, and I think so too. And I wish I'd been operated on before I'd ever seen a pub.